What is up everyone, and welcome to part 2 of this tutorial. And in this tutorial we're going to be finishing off what we did in the previous tutorial, where we created a hotel 3-page simple website design concept. And in today's tutorial we're just going to go through how we can prototype it and animate it inside of Adobe XD. If you haven't watched it, please do watch the other video first, as this will be a continuation of that one. But yeah, be sure to like, comment and subscribe to this video and turn that notification bell on. Without further ado, let's get into the animation. So, as I said, you can see from here, from the previous file that we had, we've pretty much created these 3 designs, which is a very simple luxury website design. And the idea is that we are going to zoom out. So you've got this first page here, we're going to zoom out, and then that box will turn itself into this section here, and then after that we'll use the scroll section, which we can just scroll one box across. So before we get into the animation, we have to do a few setup controls, a few things to set up, just to make sure that everything's going to be in order. And a few of those things are as follows. So let's start off with the first image. So this is the thing that's going to obviously size down, right? Now obviously, because this box here and this box are not the same box inside of the layers here, so what XD will think is that this is 2 separate objects, and it won't actually create the animation cleanly. So what I tend to do is I go to here, I ungroup the grid, and just to make sure that we don't have anything we don't want. I ungroup the grid, and when I've done that, is now I can take this grid here, this kind of duplicate there, copy that, go back to the home page, paste it, and then I'm just going to size the hold on. So you've got 2 things, right? You've got the text, which we can delete. No, we won't delete, actually. No, we won't delete. I want that to animate as well. So I'm just going to double click, and I'm just going to select the image itself, and I'm going to size it to the same height as the other one. These 2 I'm just going to leave there, but I'm going to push it down, and I'm going to take the opacity to 0. Now we just order this. I would recommend you maybe keep a track of where your layers are, and we want this to be about here, which I believe the other one's going to be the image. Perfect, right? Just push this back up. Right, perfect. So this box will share the same elements as this box, right? So then what we need to do is now we need to do this box, because I want this to do maybe an animation where it slides stuff that way, right? So I'm going to copy this box, go to this this artwork, paste it, and just put it right to the back, right? And then we're just going to shrink it, and that's it, right? So then we know that this is going to be, now obviously we can turn the opacity to 0. But I think I'm just going to leave it like that for now. So what else do we need to do? We need to copy these 3 texts. So you got the header 2 text, the body text and the bottom text to here. Now the reason why we're doing that is so that when we animate, we want them to just animate upwards, right? So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to drag it to the top, and I'm going to turn the opacity to 0, right? And I'm going to do the same thing with the hotel, paste that there. Now with this, I'm just going to push the hotel to the top until you can just about see it, because obviously if you just give an example, if I push it completely out and it does that, XD won't animate between the 2 artworks. It will literally just drop it off from the first artwork. So we need to make sure that it's somehow still in there, and the best way to do that is just to make sure that the boundaries are still within the artboard. I'll do the same thing with this. Now the reason why I put them on top of each other is because I want them to kind of almost have an animation where they just kind of catch each other up as they get to the top, right? And then I don't even need to set the opacity to 0 because they will be outside. So that's animated, that's animated, that's animated, that's animated, that's animated. So let's just take a quick look. Let me go to prototype, click and drag the arrow to the second artboard. Now here, obviously, take a look at the right-hand section where we need to make some adjustments. First adjustment we're going to do is we're not going to have it as tap for trigger, we're going to have it as time, right? So we want it to happen immediately. And then, actually, you know what? No, let's keep it on tap because I just want to monitor the actual animation bit by bit. The type we want is auto animate. The destination is number 2. For easing, we want no easing. I know most people will have easy ease and in and out kind of things, but for this one, I just want it to be a straightforward, simple animation because I just want to see what it will do. And the duration, I'm just going to keep it as 1 second for now. These will change in a second. This is just for monitoring purposes. And then obviously once I click anywhere else, I just want it to go back. But in future, we're just going to get it to go to number 3. So let's hit play for that for now. You can see here, so if I click on that, you can see that one goes down perfectly. If I go back, I just want to make sure everything's right. The hotel Pro 2, see what happens there. That goes out perfectly. The star and this section here, that goes out perfectly. Okay, perfect. So now I know everything's working. I just want to play about with the animation in terms of timing and speed and everything, right? And the best way to do that is to click on that first arrow, and this is the section here that we need to play about with. And how I'm going to do that, click on that. So the first thing is I'm going to put my easy in as in and out. The duration, I don't want it to be 1 second. I think that's a bit too long. So let's try it as 0.4 seconds and let's click play. Okay, that's a bit too fast personally. So let's try that again. Let's go back to 0.8 seconds and click play again. Yeah, I think that's quite nice. So you can see everything else is working perfectly. You can see the back shape is kind of disappearing perfectly nice. And you'll have the text box coming in as well, right? Now, I want to do one thing. Now we're going to move on to the next boxes, which is these boxes here. I want them to slide up as they come up, right? So the best way to do that is, so I want them to do something like this. I'm going to the design. I want them to do something like this, right? It'd be like slide up, right? That's what I want. First, let me take all the borders off. Oh, crap. Let's take all the borders off these images because I don't know why I'd left that on. Take that off. Perfect. And just do the same thing on these ones since I'm in the process as well. Now, obviously, this is things that you have to just make sure during your art stage that you take care of, which is basically to make sure that all the artworks are exactly the same labels and layers and layer names as each other. So the best way to do this section now is I'm going to copy all the extra boxes, go back here, paste them, but I want to order them. So I want to paste them where they are behind everyone else, about there, right? And then I'm going to, let me just, in the meantime, I'm just going to hide everything so that I can see a clearer picture. Right, it's just so that I can see a clear picture. And then what we do with these ones is we literally go inside, click on it. I'm going to drag it till it's pretty much at the bottom, so 1 pixel height, and do the same for each one. Let's just make it 1. Oh, see, that's the problem. If I type it in, it's going to move it, which I don't want. Let me do the last one. Perfect. Right. Oh, wait, no, that was wrong. Now, let me tell you why I think that was wrong, right? So if I dragged it down here and then I press 1, you see how that's gone to the top? Now, what that happens is when I animate it, it's going to animate like this. It's going to animate very weirdly. It's going to animate from the bottom as well as the top, right? Which we don't want. We want it so that it animates literally from the bottom upwards. So we try and get as close as we can and do it from here. Perfect. And the great thing about this is, oh, why is this like this? Okay, that's an upside down image. Yep, that's the right size up. Perfect. Now, the good thing about this is that we can select them all and just turn the opacity to 0, right? So what ultimately will happen if I click play, you see how they all slide up, right? They all slide up. That's ideally the trick. Now, what we can do as a way of maybe showing some sort of a delay, if I do that, is if I where is it? Yeah, so I'm going to take this one, I'm going to hold the shift, I'm going to press down a couple of times, hold shift, press down a couple of times, and hold shift and press down a couple of times, and then go back to setting the opacity to 0. Now what that ultimately does is something like this, right? So it's very rare, but you see that little bit that slides up. It just gives it that little bit of a subtle animation, right? It's those little things that people might notice in your designs. So it's always good to pay attention on how you can do things a little bit differently. Just turn everything else back on. So let's just check everything again. Click on play, click on that, and everything's there. Now we're just gonna do one last thing, which is to make sure that everything slides across to the left, one box. So the way to do that is, since we already have our boxes here, I'm just going to go to the prototype. I'm going to take the arrow so it doesn't go back to the first one, but rather it goes to the second option here, or the third box, and then the third box we can go back to the big one there. So let me click play and just show you what that does as it is. See how that just blends rather than it actually sliding across. And obviously the reason for that is, if we just click on these shapes, is because the shape titles won't be the same. So you can see this one's labeled as group 7 and this one here is group 1. So the best thing to do, I would say, is delete number 3, duplicate it so that you know you have exactly the same as everything else, select everything, and then push that in, right? And basically what that now will do is, if I go back to here, click on that, everything's the same. So, and then just look on the last one. So let's go back to the first one. Is now if I click play, go to the second box. Now if I click on it, everything should slide across, right? There you go, right? And then if I click on play, it goes back and it brings everything out. So it's really important to make sure that you have all the layers labeled correctly, because if you don't, you can obviously see what happened with me here, where everything tends to just not work correctly. But yeah, I hope you liked it. Be sure, like I said, if you haven't checked the first tutorial out, be sure to check that out to show you how we created this design in the first place. I will put a link onto the description where you can possibly download these files if you want to just play about with this file directly. But yeah, tell us what you think. Hope you liked it. Please comment and share it with your friends, and anyone else that might like this. And yeah, stay tuned for our next videos, and do check out some of the other videos we have here somewhere for some of the other tutorials that we have done in case you have missed it. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.